10 spine-chilling true morgue tales, unexplained terrors haunted by hidden secrets. Laura had no idea how deep the darkness ran in Brookshire. She thought moving her and her son Sam to this quiet suburb would bring comfort, a safe place to heal after the divorce. But the moment they crossed the threshold of their modest, weathered home, an unsettling atmosphere pressed down on her like a heavy fog. As she unloaded boxes, a chill crawled up her spine, the air felt thick with secrets. The morgue at the end of their street loomed like an ominous sentinel, its worn walls whispering stories of a past she wasn't ready to face. Old newspaper clippings she stumbled upon revealed sinister disappearances linked to the decrepit building. She could almost hear the shadows murmuring, begging, crying for attention. Despite her attempts at rationalizing the uneasy feeling clawing at her, darkness hung over her like a shroud. As night fell, she noticed the lights flickering, casting long, warped shadows across the room. Sam, her curious little boy, started talking about friends he heard calling for him at dusk. Panic pricked at her heart. Just imagination, she whispered to herself. Yet, deep inside her, she felt the weight of something terrible lurking. That evening, she found herself at the local grocery store, surrounded by other mothers, and their casual chatter spiraled into whispers about the morgue. People used to go in, but they never came out, one said, chuckling nervously, though the fear behind her eyes betrayed her. Each account of specters and missing neighbors gnawed at Laura, turning her stomach into knots. Was Sam somehow connected to this dreadful history? Before she could wrestle with her anxiety any longer, she caught a glimpse of Mr. Collins, the town's friendly morgue attendant, hidden among the aisles. His warm smile felt unsettling as he shared peculiar tales about the building's history, speaking with a familiarity that felt wrong. A chill washed over her with each eerie detail he offered. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, Laura lay awake in bed, her heart racing as Sam's small voice echoed in her mind. He spoke of lost souls and hidden chambers as if he had seen them himself. With dread pooling in her chest, she knew she needed to visit the morgue. The thought twisted at the edge of her sanity, but time was running out. The next evening, driven by desperation, she approached the morgue. Shadows danced and twisted around her, beckoning her closer. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stood before the rotting structure, fear pulling her back even as curiosity pushed her forward. Just then, she heard Sam's voice calling out, "Mommy." It drifted through the air like an echo from the grave. As a deep silence enveloped her, the streetlights flickered and died, plunging Brookshire into suffocating darkness. Laura felt the ground beneath her tremble. She clutched Sam's hand tightly, a sickening realization dawning upon her. The friendly neighbor she thought she knew was just one of many monsters in their suburban paradise. With her heart in her throat, she turned to flee only to find a shadowy figure swirling out of the morgue's depths, whispering her name in a voice that promised to unearth terrible truths buried deep within Brookshire. The shadow advanced, its shape twisting like smoke caught in a gust of wind. Laura froze, her breath catching in her throat. "Sam!" she shouted, but her voice felt drowned in the thick blanket of darkness. The figure stepped closer, and a garbled whisper escaped its lips, a sound that sent a jagged chill through her bones. "Mommy, come play." It was Sam's voice, yet laced with something eerily hollow. Laura's heart hammered against her ribs. This was not her son, not anymore. She could feel fear wrapping around her like icy fingers, squeezing tighter with every heartbeat. "Run!" she screamed, dragging Sam away from the unnatural thing that had taken his voice. As they sprinted down the street, she dared not look back, the darkness clawing at her heels. The sound of metal creaking echoed behind her, a chilling reminder of what lay in the morgue. They dove into their home, slamming the door shut. Laura locked it with trembling hands, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. She raced to the window, peeking through the curtains. The street lay shrouded in darkness, but she could feel it watching her, lurking in the shadows. "What's wrong, Mommy?" Sam asked, his big innocent eyes wide and curious. She swallowed hard, forcing a smile she didn't feel. "Nothing, honey. Just a scary dream." But the truth clawed at her insides. Those dreams felt too real, and the line between nightmares and reality blurred more each day. As she tucked Sam into bed, she kept glancing nervously toward the window. Every shadow danced menacingly, every creak of the house sounded like whispers of the damned. Sleep eluded her, and the stillness of the night seeped into her bones, heavy and cold. A sudden crash woke her. Adrenaline shot through her as she bolted upright, the weight of dread wrapping around her like a vice. Sam lay peacefully beside her, utterly unaware. She crept out of bed, heart racing. The sound had come from the kitchen. Shaky hands reached for the light switch, but the bulb flickered before sputtering out completely. Darkness engulfed her once more. Laura swallowed, stifling fear as she made her way to the source of the noise. With each step, the air grew denser, heavier, as if the room were alive, breathing in tandem with her rising panic. Then she heard a child's giggle, breaking the silence like glass shattering in the night. "Mommy, we're waiting." It was Sam's voice again, but it echoed from the wrong place. Not her son, but the spirits he had spoken of, those lost souls craving release, beckoning her to join them. The giggling grew louder, bouncing off walls, filling the air with an unearthly harmony. She stumbled back, her rationality fraying at the edges. "No. Sam, stay with me." She refused to let him be taken. In the kitchen, she could see a flicker of movement. Shadows darted just beyond her vision, and in the corner of her eye, something shifted, a shape coalescing into a vague form. Her breath quickened as recognition dawned. They were the missing residents of Brookshire, faces familiar but twisted in despair. Their eyes glowed, pleading, clawing at the edges of her sanity. "Help us, join us," they chorused, their voices melding into a haunting symphony. The walls of the house began to thrum, echoing their call. Laura turned and dashed back to the bedroom, desperately pulling her son close. "We have to go, Sam. We can't stay here." But the door slammed shut, a hand gripping it from the other side, holding it tight with a force that felt undeniable. The shadows whispered promises of peace, of reunion. "We're not alone, you'll understand." Terrified, Laura clutched Sam. The giggling echoed in her ears, and she realized, with trembling horror, that darkness was rising, not retreating. Her sanctuary was shattering, and the ghosts were inviting her in. What choice did she truly have? Was the only way out through the very terror she sought to escape? As scratching sounds filled the air around her, she felt the moment teetering on the brink of an unseen abyss. Would she be the next to enter the morgue's secrets? Or would she uncover a truth worse than the darkness itself? Laura's heart raced, thumping like a war drum in her chest as she pressed her back against the cold, solid door. Sam clung to her, his small hand trembling in hers. The whispers, now turning into a cacophony of desperate pleas, filled the air. The voices of the lost, of the forgotten souls, clawed at her sanity. "Join us, come play, stay quiet," Laura hissed through gritted teeth, her wide eyes darting toward the door. The grip on the doorknob tightened, an unnatural power holding it shut, as if something on the other side was shoving against it. "Mommy?" Sam's innocent voice broke through the panic. "I'm scared." "Me too, baby. But I need you to be brave. Just hold on to me." She fought back tears, the weight of everything threatening to crush her. The scratching sounds morphed into a chaotic symphony as they clawed at the surfaces around them. How long could they stay like this? Trapped in this room with the darkness pressing down, every moment tainted with an unshakable dread. She pushed herself away from the door, inching toward the window. The curtains hung lifeless, as if they knew the horror outside. "Here, let us look." Peering through the glass, she felt a pulse of fear as the familiar faces appeared in her mind, the residents of Brookshire, those she had seen flicker in and out of life's south rightful place. Somehow, they looked more alive now, more vivid than ever, but she could sense their torment lurking beneath. The glow of their eyes, filled with despair, felt like a dagger twisting in her gut. Another crash rocked the house, rattling the walls, and Laura jumped back, shouting, "Sam, get under the bed." She pushed him down and quickly followed, curling tightly beside him. The whispers filled the space between them, wrapping them like a cocoon. "Join us, it's safe here, come play." The voices morphed, sounding like corrupted imitations of laughter, echoing into every crevice of her mind. Laura squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block them out, but the laughter persisted, rising and falling like tides against the shores of sanity. With a sudden surge of resolve, she peered under the bed, catching Simon's confused, frightened stare. "I want to go home," he cried. "We will, Sam. I promise." She felt a surge of determination as she slowly crawled toward the door, inching forward as the scratching grew more insistent, a chorus of haunted beings urging her to join their ranks. "We can't let them take you." Suddenly, silence. Laura's breath hitched as she pressed an ear to the door. Had they retreated? Or were they simply waiting, biding their time? "Stay still," she whispered to Sam, her heart pounding in time with her racing thoughts. Then she heard a low growl, followed by a sharp thud. Something heavy shifted against the door. "Laura!" It came again, Sam's voice now sounding distant, blurred with fear. She couldn't risk leaving the safety of their tiny refuge. But how long could they remain there before the shadows consumed everything? A sudden bang against the door jolted her back. She flinched, feeling the wood splinter under the pressure. The growl intensified, morphing into a growl like that of an animal starving for flesh. It wanted in. It was hungry and impatient. "Mommy, I'm scared." Sam's voice was barely above a whisper, tears pooling in his eyes. "I know, Sam. Just hold on." Despair clawed at her chest, but she pushed it back, focusing on the task at hand. They needed an escape plan. Laura's gaze flickered to the window again, trying to gauge if climbing out could be an option. Just then, another shriek pierced through the thick darkness, inexplicably echoing off the walls. It was a sound of anguish, a banshee's wail or a mother's cry. "Mommy?" Sam's voice superimposed over the haunting cry. It stirred something deep within her. Moments flashed before her eyes, scenes of their happy life together amidst the shadows creeping ever closer. "Sam," she said through clenched teeth, "we're going for it." She reached for the door handle in a rush, ready to confront the other side. But would salvation lie there, or damnation? Before she could make a move, Sam's small hand grabbed her arm. "Wait. What if it's the wrong choice?" Her pulse quickened. The shadows danced, whispering, and before her mind could grasp the depth of their implications, she swung the door wide open. The darkness surged forward, a voracious tide pulling her in what awaited them beyond that door. Would they find freedom or further entrapment in this nightmare? The darkness enveloped them like a suffocating blanket, pulling Laura and Sam into an abyss of twisted shadows. As soon as the door creaked open, the cacophony of whispers escalated, rising to a terrifying symphony of lost souls demanding their attention. Laura's breath caught in her throat as an overwhelming wave of cold air surged past her, a chill that seeped deep into her bones. "Mommy!" Sam's voice splintered the thick tension, pulling her back to urgency. "What is it?" "I don't know, just stay close," she whispered back, scanning the dimly lit hallway. The world outside their sanctuary was transformed, bathed in a sickly, pale glow. The walls seemed to shift, their colors swirling like dry paint under the weight of misery. In the distance, the flickering of lights danced erratically, casting elongated shadows that twisted and contorted like angry spirits. Laura's instincts screamed for her to retreat, to slam the door shut again, but something irresistible beckoned them forth. It was as if the very air hung heavy with forgotten promises and half-remembered names, those of the poor souls who might be ensnared here forever. another jagged whisper cut through the stillness, amorphous voices blending into one another. "Come play, join us, you don't want to be alone." As they made their way into the hallway, Laura shielded Sam with her body. Each step felt weighted, as though the shadows were trying to pull them back into suffocating darkness. She could feel Sam's small frame shivering against her, his fear making their connection palpable. Suddenly, a door down the hall flew open, slamming against the wall, revealing a room thick with fog and despair. An unearthly howl erupted from within, a sound so primal and raw it clawed at her heart. Instinctively, she grabbed Sam's hand tighter, their fingers entwined in a death grip. "Let us go," she breathed, moving past the door with urgency, the temptation to look back almost overwhelming. Just as they passed, an unhealthy mist curled out, wrapping around the threshold like eager fingers reaching to ensnare them. She felt a pull, but they pressed on. They reached the end of the hallway, where a staircase spiraled down into deeper darkness. The whispers grew louder, now almost a roar, drowning out her thoughts. Join us, don't be afraid." With a surge of determination, Laura squared her shoulders. "This way," she insisted, urging them toward the stairs. But as she stepped down, a sudden shriek erupted behind them, an unearthly cry that sent her heart racing. The sound echoed down the hallway, chilling her to the core. "Mommy!" Sam squeaked, his eyes wide with terror. "What was that?" "I don't know, but we have to keep moving." Her voice was shaky, torn between fear and a desperate hope for safety. But as they descended, each step resonated with a thud that seemed to awaken something at the bottom of the stairs. Shadows twisted into forms, coalescing into ghostly figures that seemed to reach out from the wall, their hollow eyes silently begging for release. They reached the bottom, and the shadows thundered behind them, a wall of darkness moving faster than they could run. Through the murk, she spotted a door less imposing, almost inviting. "Over there!" she shouted, racing toward it. But as she reached for the knob, the whispers transformed into frantic shrieks, their intensity spiking, resonating deep within her mind, clawing at her sanity. "No! Stay with us!" With trembling hands, Laura turned the knob, bursting through the door into a blinding light that contrasted sharply with the pervasive darkness they had just escaped. "What is happening?" Sam whimpered, clinging to her side as the door swung shut behind them. They found themselves in a wide-open space. The air was thick, but there was a warmth that hinted at life. Yet, in the corners, shadows still whispered, lurking like predators waiting for the first sign of weakness. "Where are we?" Laura gasped, scanning the room, desperate to make sense of the overwhelming fear pulsing against her skin. The walls held old photographs, smiling faces frozen in time. But their eyes seemed too aware, too hollow, and in that moment, she realized that they weren't free yet. The voices were only growing fainter for now, then a piercing laugh echoed from nowhere and everywhere at once. "You think you can escape?" Laura's heart plummeted. That laugh wasn't just a memory, it was a promise of something darker still to come. And she knew, deep down, they were far from the end of the nightmare. What new horrors lurked just beyond the walls of this newfound refuge? Would they ever find the way out alive? The light swirled around them, almost mocking in its brightness. Laura squinted, her eyes desperate for clarity, but all she found were shadows lurking just beyond the edges. Sam clutched her leg, his small body trembling, the warmth of the light doing little to ease his fear. "Mommy, where are we?" His voice quivered, filled with a deep dread that made her want to pull him close and shield him from whatever lay ahead. I don't know, honey." Suddenly, the air shifted. A cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing the earlier warmth. The photographs on the wall seemed to sway slightly, whispering secrets in tones she couldn't quite decipher. Each face bore a hint of despair, their smiles empty and their eyes wide with terror. "Look, Mommy." Sam pointed toward the far corner where the shadows pooled thickest. Something moved, a flicker of darkness that danced just outside the reach of the light. With a twist, it solidified a child, maybe her age, with long, tangled hair and skin pale as death. Laura gasped. "Samantha." It called with a chilling charm. Come play with us. Laura's heart raced. How would this child know Sam's name? No. She shouted, pulling Sam close. We don't play. The figure melted back into the darkness, laughter echoing mockingly in the air. Around them, the walls seemed to pulse, throbbing with an unsettling life of their own. The sound of whispers slithered back, rising again, a tide of voices calling out. Join us, join your friends, Mommy, I'm scared. Sam cried, his voice a dagger cutting through the horror. I know, buddy, I know. Desperation gripped her throat. She scanned the room, looking for another way out. The door they had entered through stood silently behind them, but the space beyond it felt even darker than anything they had just fled. It felt like a mistake. Look out! A figure suddenly lunged from the shadows towards them. It was a woman, her face twisted in anger, eyes burning with something that felt as ancient as time. Laura instinctively pushed Sam behind her. You don't belong here. The woman shrieked, her voice cracking like thunder. You must leave now. Laura stumbled back, terrified of the electric energy crackling in the woman's words. Please, we just want to go home. No one leaves this place. The woman screamed, lunging forward. Laura reacted on instinct, pulling Sam with her. They dashed toward the door, hands grasped at them from the shadows, fingers brushing against her back, 1,000 whispers swirling through her mind. Stay, don't go, join us. Join us. They burst through the door, scrambling out into a narrow passageway that twisted like a snake, the walls closing in around them. Dim lights flickered overhead, illuminating their path but casting ominous shadows that churned and writhed like a living nightmare. Mommy, I can't, Sam sobbed, his little legs struggling to keep pace. Yes, you can. Just keep moving. Laura urged, gritting her teeth as panic surged through her. Behind them, she felt the shadows receding, but the whispers only grew louder, fed by their fear. They must escape or become part of the darkness. Ahead, she spotted another door, this one slightly ajar, breathing an inviting warmth. She rushed towards it, adrenaline coursing as hope flickered like the dying light. But as they approached, the whispers morphed into a single voice, growling with ferocity. Leave or be consumed. Laura hesitated, the door standing between safety and the consuming void. We have to. She yelled, pushing harder against the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. An unseen force held it closed, a sinister pressure mounting as she pulled again. Mommy! Sam cried, his nails digging into her arms. It's going to get us. In that moment of desperation, a blast of cold air surged around them. The walls pulsed, the lights flickered violently, and before she could understand, the door swung wide open, unveiling a new space cloaked in shadows but alive with the moans of those trapped, and then silence fell. They're waiting for you, the voice whispered, a seductive lullaby that wrapped around them like a noose. Laura's pulse quickened. What awaited them on the other side? Did they dare step through or remain trapped in a limbo of torment? Just as she stepped forward, she heard Sam's voice, trembling, Mommy, don't. What awaited them beyond that threshold? Would they find salvation, or was the darkness only just beginning to bloom? The hallway beyond the door was unlike anything they had seen. Mist swirled around their feet, pooling in the creases of the dark floor as they stepped forward. The afraid squeal of Sam echoed off the walls, his small hand clenching tighter around hers. Mommy, it's cold, he whispered, shivering as the temperature dropped further. Her heart sank. There was no warmth, not even a flicker of light. Stay close, she murmured, though her own voice felt swallowed by the dense air around them. Strangely shaped shadows melted into the corners, bubbling and receding like a living creature, watching them approach. An overwhelming sense of wrongness wrapped around them, squeezing the air from her lungs. They wandered forward, each step filled with dread. The whispers returned, thick and syrupy, muddling her thoughts. You've come to play, to join us, they seemed to beckon. Mommy? Sam's voice was barely audible now, a faint plea that wrenched at her heart. He shivered against her leg, feeling more fragile than ever. Just a bit farther, Laura urged, fear clawing at her throat. She scanned the dimness for a way out, and the walls closed in around them. She caught glimpses of shapes that resembled children, their faces gaunt and eyes hollow, beckoning with bony fingers. Paralyzed with terror, she shook her head, tearing her gaze away. No, this isn't real. But as she moved, a weight began to settle over their bodies, heavy and almost suffocating. It felt as if the very shadows around them thickened, pressing into their skin, invading their minds. Sam's breath hitched and Laura turned to see a flicker of fear in his eyes. He was slipping, the darkness latching onto him like a predator. Sam! Hold on to me. She yanked him closer as the whispers twisted into laughter, a chilling chorus that danced through the air, echoing off the walls. They wove a spell of despair, curling around her heart, pulling her down. Join us. No. Laura screamed. Stay away. The sound clawed at her throat. For an instant, she caught a glimpse of the door behind them, a flicker of light, a thin sliver of hope. We can't stay here, Sam. Come on. With renewed determination, she tugged him toward the flickering light. Suddenly, jubilant shrieks erupted from the shadows. The children's spirits lunged at them, laced with swirling darkness, their elongated limbs reaching desperately. One child, with hair like tendrils of smoke and eyes gone white, caught Laura's wrist in a vice-like grip. Join us. It shrieked, its voice an unbearable screech. Panic surged through her, adrenaline blaring in her ears. She pulled away hard, wrenching Sam with her as they bolted for the door. Mommy, I can't. He wailed, his legs faltering, dragging like they carried weights of despair. The sounds of desperate laughter pierced through her resolve, clawing at her sanity. With all her strength, she lifted him and sprinted. They barreled toward the door, the laughter rising to a cacophony. The air thickened, resistance pushing against her, but she couldn't stop. They smashed through, landing in yet another space, one that felt sickeningly familiar. It's changing, Sam gasped, looking around. Panic surged in Laura as she tried to focus. The walls were adorned with pictures again, the same hollow faces watching them, their haunted smiles stretching wider. It was all a trick, a never-ending cycle. No, 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 she breathed, stumbling back. A figure loomed in the far corner, familiar yet twisted, like the first child they had seen. Come play with us forever, it cooed, grinning maliciously. Despair washed over her. How many times had they escaped only to fall deeper into the abyss? Mommy, don't go. Sam. She lunged toward her son, who was already being pulled back into the throng of shadows. The warmth of his palm slipped from her grasp, and she was left alone, darkness creeping around her, the whispers rising to a sinister roar. All she could see were the endless eyes staring, the mouths promising eternal play. Just as she began to lose herself in the chaos, a voice broke through, clear and sharp, help us or you will be next. Who were they? What would happen to them now? Laura gasped, the air chilling further as shadows closed in around them. She had to make a choice. What would she do next? The darkness pressed against her like a heavy blanket, smothering her senses. Laura's heart raced as the voices surrounded her. They weren't just whispers anymore, they were a symphony of pleas and taunts, all woven together. Each murmur pierced deeper, clawing at her sanity. Help us or you will be next. She shook her head, trying to clear her mind. No. I want to help you. She shouted into the void, feeling small and powerless. But the shadows only laughed louder. With a swift glance around, she searched for Sam, but the swirling mass of darkness made it impossible to see. Her mind raced. If this was an endless cycle, where had they entered? What realm had they stumbled into? The malevolent energy crackled in the air, and she felt it, that sick balance between hope and despair. Laura turned again, trying to anchor herself. The wall behind her was no longer a wall, it had transformed into a mirror, reflecting not just her image but something else. Shadows twisted into the shapes of her own face, her eyes wide with terror, a hollow echo of her screams reflected back at her. "Sam!" She cried again, panic igniting her voice, and then she heard it, a soft, whimpering sound not far off, the sound of her child. "Mommy, Sam! I'm coming!" She pushed through the shadows, a frenzied rush of desperation. Each step felt heavy, like moving through molten darkness. But instinct propelled her. Suddenly, she stumbled upon a clearing, illuminated by an eerie, pulsating light. In the center, a circle of bones lay strewn about, arranged intentionally. They looked like jewelry, each broken piece glimmering ominously, as if they had come from souls long lost. A heavy feeling settled in her stomach as she realized their macabre purpose. And there, at the edge of the circle, stood Sam, knees bent and tears rolling down his cheeks. He seemed lost, his wide eyes searching for something he could not find. Laura dashed to him, kneeling to wrap her arms around him. "Don't let go, Sam." But before she could pull him away, shadows surged around them, powerful and insidious. They dragged at her feet, threatening to separate them once more. "Join us." The voices sang, their relentless chorus tugging at every thread of her resolve. "No!" Laura screamed again, wrenching Sam closer. This time, she felt fury blend with fear. "You will not take him." Gritting her teeth, she concentrated. She needed strength. Something primal surged within her, a mother's instinct to protect. "Let us go." With a wild thrash, she raised a bone from the ground, shining with a ghastly glow under the pulsating light. It vibrated in her grip, the whispers fading momentarily. "You don't control us." She could feel the energy shift, like the darkness recoiling from her anger, but as she swung the bone down, it shattered, fracturing the air like glass. A terrible shriek erupted from the shadows, drowning out everything. They writhed and twisted, swirling around her. "You shouldn't have done that. Now you will join us forever." The floor trembled beneath Laura's feet, and suddenly, it cracked open, revealing an abyss where fiendish faces peered up at them, mouths wide in a hollow scream. She clutched Sam tightly, heart racing as they teetered on the edge. Just then, a blinding flash of light pierced the darkness. It felt like a lifeline, beckoning them. Laura hesitated, glancing back at the faces of the children and the tortured souls around them. Hope battled terror inside her. "Sam, we can do this. We can make it to the light." As they moved towards it, the darkness howled, wrapping tighter, desperate to pull them back. Every instinct warned her not to look back, yet the voices grew louder, more insistent, roiling like a tempest. They reached the edge of the light, the warmth enveloping them like a blanket. But as they stood ready to leap, Laura felt a sharp tug at her heart. The shadows whispered again, this time with a chilling certainty, "You can't escape your fate, you belong to us." With one last glance back at the chaos, Laura made the leap, holding Sam tightly. And then nothing but a disorienting stillness followed, the lingering echoes of despair echoing behind them. As they opened their eyes, they found themselves back in their living room, the familiar walls standing stark against the overwhelming sense of dread that clung to them. But something was wrong. Sam turned slowly to face her, his gaze empty, a smile creeping across his lips that chilled her to the bone. "Can we play forever now, Mommy?" A pulse of ice surged through Laura. This was just the beginning. What had they really escaped? And as she tried to process the chilling reality in front of her, she knew there was much more to uncover. How deep did this darkness run? What were the true intentions of the whispers surrounding them? More shadows loomed ahead, promising things unseen. They weren't done playing just yet. The air was thick with a silence that buzzed with unease. Laura's heart hammered against her chest, each beat echoing the fear crawling up her spine. The living room, once a sanctuary, now felt like a trap. The familiar furniture loomed like sentinels, mocking her with their normalcy. "Sam, you're scaring me," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. But as her son stood there, his frozen smile only deepened her terror. "Mommy, don't you want to play?" he asked, tilting his head in a way that made her skin crawl. "Play what?" she managed, her throat dry. Panic swirled in her. This wasn't her Sam, it couldn't be. Forever. He squealed with glee, a sound that echoed unnaturally against the walls. The air grew colder, and the shadows in the corners of the room flickered, stretching like gnarled fingers reaching for her. "Stop it!" Laura yelled, clutching her son's hands tightly, but his grip felt wrong, too soft, too limber. He was slipping away from her, transforming into something she couldn't recognize. Then, the whispers returned, wrapping around them like a noose. "Play with us just like before," they cooed, enticing yet threatening. "Go away!" Laura screamed, her voice breaking. She stumbled back, dragging Sam with her, desperate to distance herself from the darkness creeping along the floor. But as she turned, the walls shimmered, distorting the space around her. Mirrors popped into existence, reflecting nightmarish versions of herself and Sam, twisted smiles and hollow eyes that mocked her with every glance. Her breath caught in her throat as the familiar sights warped into grotesque figures. In that moment, a sliver of doubt crept in. Was this all a trick? Had they really escaped what lurked beyond? She couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows had followed them, invading the last bastion of their home. Mommy Sam's voice was sweet, but chill ran through her as it vibrated with an unfamiliar resonance. Each word felt as if it were uttered from the mouths of those long lost. Laura's mind raced. She needed an answer. She needed to know what was happening to her child. What happened back there, Sam? The light, it should have saved us. But Sam only giggled, tilting his head further. The light can't save everyone, Mommy. Some just have to play. The shadows surged forward as if drawn by his words, filling the room with a palpable dread. Laura felt her courage falter. They were trapped in a game she hadn't consented to play. The laughter grew louder, more sinister, and all at once, she felt a weight heavier than before pressing her down. "No!" she screamed, shaking Sam as if the force of her will could shake away the darkness. "We're leaving this place." But he only laughed again, a sound that echoed eerily in the stillness. "You can't leave. This is home now." At that moment, the lights flickered, and the mirrors pulsed, revealing glimpses of the abyss they had tried to escape earlier. Faces, distorted and pleading, flashed before her eyes. "Help us, Laura!" They screamed in unison, grasping at her heart with invisible hands. In a frantic panic, she lunged for the front door, desperate to escape the haunting macabre inside. But as she reached for the doorknob, it melted into darkness, forming a swirling void instead. She fought against the emerging weight of despair wrapping around her, trying to pull her back into the dark. "What do you want?" she cried, her voice breaking. "Why won't you let us go?" The emptiness echoed in reply, a chilling subtlety that slipped through her certainties. The darkness pressed in closer, tightening its grip around her and Sam. As she grimly faced the increasing shadows encroaching, Laura's resolve solidified. "I want to let you take him. I'll fight." The whispers roared back, challenging her, taunting her. "A mother's love can lead to endless torment, do you understand?" And just as despair threatened to overwhelm her completely, Laura closed her eyes tightly, focusing on the bond she felt with Sam. She needed to summon that spark of light within her wherever it was to break free from this suffocating nightmare. But as the darkness clawed at her strength, she heard Sam's voice, softer now, almost a whisper. "Mommy, let us play." With dread spiraling in her stomach, she opened her eyes, ready to confront the chaos that had become her life, but what lay in front of her was something she could never have anticipated, shattering her final grasp on reality. What were the shadows really after? And could she save Sam before the darkness overtook them both? The room twisted like a dream gone wrong. Shadows pressed closer, narrowing the space around them until Laura felt her pulse in her ears, each thud louder than the last. Sam's laughter danced like static in the air, filling her with dread. It echoed off the walls, each laugh more warped than the last. Sam! Focus on me. She pleaded, shaking his shoulders. This isn't you. You need to come back. Yet as she met his gaze, the familiar warmth of his eyes had dimmed, replaced by an unfathomable void. Why play with the living when the dead are more fun? He crooned, smirking, something sinister lingering beneath the innocent facade. The whispers grew frantic, rising like a tidal wave. Join us, Laura. Forever let go. The walls pulsed with their intensity, throbbing as if alive, hungry for submission. No! She roared, her heart pounding in rebellion against despair. She had to escape this wretched parody of her home. With a surge of strength, she pulled Sam into a tight embrace, feeling the warmth of his body but battling the creepy chill invading her mind. We have to break free. But Sam wriggled free, twisting out of her grasp as if he were made of smoke. Why fight, Mommy? Don't you want to play hide and seek? They're waiting for you. The shadows seemed to lurch at the mention of they. They surged like an angry tide, and for the first time, Laura saw what lurked within them. Faces emerged from the emptiness, twisted and anguished, eyes wide with terror. They reached for her, fingers outstretched, mouths open in a silent scream. Help us! Her stomach churned at the sight, her instincts screaming to run, but Sam just giggled. They want to play too. Enough! She shouted, desperation morphing to anger. You're not my son. For a brief moment, Sam hesitated, his smile faltering before the icy grip of the shadows tightened around him. I am Mommy. Laura took a breath, gathering her resolve. No. You are Sam. My Sam. As she shouted his name, something flickered in his eyes, a spark momentarily breaking through the haze. Mommy, help! He whimpered, as if battling against a force that clawed at his very essence. Fight it, baby. I'm here. I love you. With every syllable, the darkness recoiled, hesitant, almost repelled by her fierce love. She felt lighter, the chains of despair easing their suffocating grip. For a heartbeat, the room brightened, and the shadows hissed softly as they recoiled. But it was fleeting. As quickly as it came, the light dimmed again, the echoes growing louder, more demanding. You cannot save him. Join us. Even as horror settled in her chest, Laura's heart clung to hope. I will save you. She cried, lunging for Sam once more, grabbing his hand with enough urgency to almost shake him awake. We can escape together. With each tug, Sam's expression shifted, momentarily clouded by the realization of what was happening. Mommy, they don't want me to go. They can't keep you, Sam. Fight. Please. But just then, the mirrors shattered with a cacophony of glass, splintering into a million jagged reflections of panic that surrounded them. Chaos erupted. The shadows, unleashed, lunged toward her, a tidal wave of darkness eager to swallow her whole. Mommy, help! Sam cried, his small voice lost in the fury. Laura knew she had to make a choice. Would she dare plunge deeper into this maw of evil to save her son? As she faced the crumbling vortex of shadows and shattered mirrors, a part of her wondered if it was even possible to save Sam from what he had become. Was this truly a fight for survival, or was it merely her descent into madness aided by the whispers of the damned? The darkness roared around them, demanding her attention, closing in tighter as she wondered what horrors lay ahead. Could she brokenly adhere to this shred of hope, or would it utterly destroy her and her beloved son? The abyss yawned before her, urging her forward, whispering promises of escape if she would just stop fighting the inevitable. And then came the voice again, thin and clear, cutting through the chaos. Mommy, let us play forever. And with that, as all light flickered and faded, she became acutely aware of what they were really asking: what would happen if she accepted? What lay on the other side of that invitation, once she let go? Laura's heart thundered as the shadows pressed closer, the whispers clawing at her sanity. The room narrowed around her, thickening like a fog, wrapping her in chilling dread. What do you want from us? She screamed, desperation spilling over. The darkness tumbled around her, responding with laughter that twisted her stomach into knots. "Join us, play with us forever," the voices sang, a haunting melody entwining with her mind, promising a false warmth beneath the cold blanket of despair. And there was Sam lost in the midst of it, standing dreamlike in the haze, now a mere puppet pulled by strings she couldn't see. The figures in the shadows surged, reaching for her, their eyes narrowed in on her, desperate for something only she could offer. "Help us, help him," they chorused in a frenzy, their cries echoing painfully. She felt as if the weight of the past and present pressed down on her chest, each heartbeat reminding her how tenuous time was. "Sam!" she called, voice cracking as she fought to break through the enchanting pull of the shadows. "Come back to me." She felt her own sanity fraying, each second stretching into eternity as Sam's smile grew broader and more twisted, an echo of joy that felt so wrong. Suddenly, bright light splintered through the shadows, cutting like glass and causing the whispers to scatter momentarily. It was a flickering beacon, pulsing with the warmth of memories long buried. "Back to the light. This way!" she shouted, yanking at Sam's hand, squeezing with all the strength she had left. "God, don't let him slip away. Mommy, wait. They want to show me something." His eyes bore hints of fascination, the promise of the dark tempting him into its embrace. "No!" Laura screamed, clutching him tighter. "They're lying. It's not safe, Sam." And in that instant of panic, something rattled in the depths of her heart. Memories flashed before her eyes, laughter shared on sunny afternoons, the smell of his favorite cookies baking, the warmth of bedtime stories tucked snug in blankets. The strength surged within her, overwhelming the shadows encroaching upon their sanctuary. "You are not getting my son." It was a primal roar, filled with fierce determination. The shadows shuddered, momentarily disorientated. "Stay with us," they hissed, the cries mixing into a haunting echo, but they no longer disoriented her. She grasped that flickering light again, forcing it to illuminate the surroundings. "Sam, listen to me. Remember our games? We can play outside. In the park. Away from here." His joy began to falter, confusion clouding those once bright eyes. "We can," he whispered, that small voice cracking slightly. "Yes, sweetie. We can be free. Just fight it. Fight the darkness." Laura felt reality bend, the air crackling with energy as motherly strength overwhelmed her fear, igniting hope of escape. With every ounce of love and fervor, Laura pulled Sam closer. "Come with me," she begged again, allowing so much more of her heart to spill over. "We're leaving. Together." Feeling that shift, Sam hesitated. "Mommy, I don't want to go." Desperation punctured his words, drawing him closer to her again, but when the shadows hissed, her heart sank. Was it enough? The darkness swirled violently, breathing with hunger, but she took a step back, illuminating the way ahead. "Then let us play one last game, the best of all, and that is to live." She launched them forward into the breach of light, ready to escape together, leaving behind the grasp of despair. As they charged, the shadows howled, scorned and desperate, fingers reaching out, clawing at their backs with shrieks that pierced her heart. "No! Don't take him!" she cried as they thrashed against the force, wrestling each second into safety until they burst through the barrier of light together. Splinters of hope shattered the whispers around them, the darkness dissipating like mist in the sun, and they landed back in their living room, solid walls surrounding them, the eerie low of the shadows finally fading away. The air felt different, lighter, but as she turned to Sam, the light around him flickered uneasily. He stood frozen, a semblance of recognition fading from those once vibrant eyes. Are we safe now?" he asked softly, each word heavy, threatening to unravel the fragile victory they had just forged. Laura kneeled before him, the warmth of his presence grounding her. "We're safe, honey. We're together, and that's all that matters." But deep down, she felt the shadows lurking in her own heart, whispering their taunts, reminding her of what they had left behind. "Mommy, we can play now, can't we?" Sam's smile twisted, not quite right, sending a shiver coursing down her spine. In that moment, Laura realized the truth. The darkness was not gone. It had only retreated into the corners of their lives, lying in wait for the next glimmer of fear. "No, Sam," she whispered, determination carving every syllable. "We will never play their games again." She pulled him close, wrapping her arms around him as the shadows twirled seductively in the corners. They would fight this together, day by day. She would protect him and shield him from the darkness, no matter the cost, but as long as it existed, their battle would never truly end. The air buzzed, shadows whispered, and somewhere deep within the heart of Brookshire, the haunting promise of play revived, waiting for the next chance to catch them off guard. That silence felt alive, but for now, she would cherish the light they had forged, however fragile it seemed. Together, she breathed, and the shadows writhed, an echo of things to come. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will thrill and chill you. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments with your reactions, theories, and what you think might happen next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting our channel through these actions.